Did you have an evaluation for it, Daniel?
Mm-mm.
Okay. We'll figure that out in a minute.
And I'll get my outline.
Okay.
Okay. In March of 2003, the U.S. led an invasion of Iraq and by the end of April in 2003, the Iraqi capital of Baghdad and Saddam Hussein were captured. This military victory, however, did not end the war in Iraq. Since the war continues today, 6 years later, it shows that this military victory didn't end the war because traditional war is no longer effective as a means of conflict resolution. Traditional war being I defined as the clash of two large armies with a well-defined enemy to confront. It is no longer effective because there is no transition between military action and the peace that should follow, and there is also the objective of war has changed since World War II. It has changed since World War II to become a war among the people. Traditional war is no longer effective because the objective has changed. Instead of the victor deciding the conditions of surrender, modern war seeks to change the lives of the people that are involved in the war. According to General Rupert Smith, who wrote a book called The Utility of Force, he defines this as not as war, but as conflict or confrontation. He further goes on to define conflict as war among the people. An example of this is if you look at two separate wars, World War II and the current Iraqi war. World War II, the goal of World War II was to force Germany and to remove the military power of Germany and Japan. The goal of the Iraqi war is to force the people to believe that a democratic government is better than the government they currently have. This is something that traditional war does not do very well. In conflict, says Smith, political strategy becomes much more important, which involves winning the trust and admiration of the people, rather than just a great military victory. Sending military forces might be necessary, but if they treat people as the enemy, the political agenda will be forfeit. This strong military action also leaves a large gap between the conflict and the peace. According to Dr. Thomas Barnett, long-range strategic planner for the Pentagon, war's inability to bring resolution is because there is no transition between actual conflict and the peace that should follow. A war is entered, and because there is no plan for what happens after the military victory, the war just keeps continuing. Barnett describes the U.S. military as a first-half team, the first half being the traditional sense of the war. We are able to complete the first half. In the Iraqi war, we were able to complete the first half of the war in under 2 months with less than 150 military casualties. So the U.S. is really good at that part of the war. But there was no plan for anything for the peace that should follow. So that's why the war has continued. In prior wars, like World War II, the first half of the war is all that was needed. Because of the goal of the war was to cease military conflict as opposed to war today, Smith war among the people. Traditional war hasn't been effective in Iraq, Vietnam, Congo, and Sudan, to name a few conflicts. Iraq and Vietnam were conflicts among the people. In Vietnam, military victory was never achieved, while in Iraq, the military victory was achieved, but there was no plan to forge the gap between the war and the peace that should follow. In Congo, traditional war and direct confrontations between large military forces is no longer a practical way to view conflicts, and no longer the approach that will lead to a resolution. Thank you.